This is Need for Speed Most Wanted. We're here on Xbox 360. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is a bit of a classic, I guess you would say at this point, Need for Speed kind of experience from the 360 era, where you were starting to get more high-octane action and integrated multiplayer features and whatnot of the era, which was kind of cool. So what are we getting here? Sub 720p at 30 FPS. Now, fascinatingly enough, allegedly, if you cap the games, like if you cap the console to 480p, it's supposed to actually give you 60 FPS, which is kind of a fascinating thing, so, you know, kind of neat that is apparently an option-like thing that you can do for this one.
You found your first car.
It's a Porsche!
There are many out there waiting for you. Just look for the vehicle.
There's many cars out there waiting for me? So it's open world action and Need for Speed. Hit jump shortcuts, switch cars, lie low. You know, fight your way past cops and rivals. Non-stop action. There's no menus, no lobbies, no restrictions. You just get to drive. And there's your PAL scores. Lots of like little destructive bits. You know, it's Need for Speed when they continue to evolve the series and stuff like that. Let's dive in. Drive to race.
To start the race, pull up to the
It's one of those tutorialized kind of things. Is it weird that it feels just like what is it? Kind of like the later Need for Speeds, but you know, Xbox One, Series X, Series S era Need for Speeds, but it's just kind of like 360 era style. And it's funny because it keeps like triggering to turn off like my downloads and stuff like that whenever there's multiplayer things going on. It's kind of fascinating. But you know, for a game of its time, it actually looks pretty good visually. I'm kind of impressed by the you know, the aesthetic and the style of it. Ooh, very aggressive. Oh, okay. Well, that's a bit of a problem. Looks like I was the one that got taken out there. Oh, come on! I'm assuming this is kind of like the Burnout Paradise era of like Need for Speed stuff. Hey, there's the EA Sports logo. I'm coming to catch up on you. Hopefully I don't crash anymore. That would, you know, kind of not be great. Ooh. I don't know, I think, seriously, this does look really good for its time and whatnot, and its sense of scale all seems to be rendering pretty well. Even from, like, a distance and all that, you can kind of, like, you don't really see popping and stuff in the city. And, yeah, it's kind of an impressive effort for its time. And who else has the need for speed? And yeah, you're always compared against your pals. I mean, we'll have to see how long those social features still keep. Actually, it's surprising that those social features are still kicking.
Immediately for an instant upgrade. Or use Easy Drive later to change your tires, nitrous, chassis, body, or transmission.
Okay. So do I get to pick this, or do you just want me to select it? Okay.
Speed points take you up the most wanted list, and racing is just one way to win them. Pick up more by smashing through billboards, blasting past speed cameras.
Hey, that actually looks like a real speed camera.
Or escaping the cops. Autolog tracks every speed point you earn.
I guess this takes place in Rockport, 3 main districts: Rosewood, Camden Beach, and downtown Rockport. It's got a grimy aesthetic that's trying to emulate the US world.
Want to check your progress?
Yes, there is a bit of a story.
To help you hunt down all the challenges across the city. What happens next?
Cutscenes are live action video shots. Really? That's so weird. Hmm. And it had one of those, like, the easy drive system is like one of those like awkward menus of this particular era of gaming. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah. You know what else I noticed is this game seems to use, like, EA at this time was kind of like trying to get higher levels of performance by kind of trimming parts of the screen. So I don't know if you noticed, but the top and the bottom of the screen are kind of blacked out. Let me actually, I'm wondering if that is something I can actually adjust or not. Display margin scale 100%. Yeah, no, that is 100%. Okay. Interesting. So yeah, because we saw this similarly with, like, I think it's Battlefield 3, and I think there was another EA game that did this too, where essentially you were cutting off like the top and the bottom of the screen to help with the performance a little bit. Ooh, I crashed. This is actually pretty aggressive in terms of like damage for vehicles and stuff. I'm gonna get arrested. I just have a need for speed with my Porsche. I think this is like a really impressive game. I really miss the, you know, well, we talk about it all the time, but I really miss the 360 era because they just had such incredible, innovative games, and games that really did look really good for, you know, the technology and all that. They were always pushing boundaries. Not that we don't today, but it just felt like things were crazier back then in terms of technology leaps over a gen. Units are being deployed to divert traffic from pursuit area. They're on me, those police cops. It's amazing how fast I could fix my car. Wow, it became white now? I was yellow car, now I'm white car. Entered a cooldown. Okay, but where do I start my my race? Pursuit evaded. That's because I'm the best. It's kind of hard to hold the left trigger and the right trigger at the same time for a long time to get like a, you know, trigger a race event. It's kind of weird. A little weird, a little weird. So yeah, every time it seems like every time you go into like a multiplayer type of thing, it just stops your download. That's so odd. This is very stylist. Ugh. Okay, is there a rewind? I kind of went way off the. Okay, well we can come back. We can come back on this. It's amazing how your car just stylistically changes like this. Remember like the old school Need for Speed games back from like, did you say original Xbox era? Anyways, yeah. I think this is really neat, but also at the same time very much like, yeah, there certainly is a style for these Need for Speed titles, I gotta say, for like the last decade, a couple decades now, I suppose. Yeah, handle's pretty good too. Like, if I had played this kind of back in the day, I would have been, I think, pretty impressed by it, but I don't think I was as into racing games at the time. Or if I was, it was very specific ones. Get out of here, camera. Man, lots of overhead things. I just love that the UI is so, like, of that time. Like, it really just reminds me straight up of, like, Battlefield and EA's other games. When you share tech and engine similarities and stuff, yeah, it makes sense, I guess. Oh, I got a slam takedown, nice. Definitely plays pretty good. You know, in the sense of like handling and that feels pretty nice. I take it Burnout Paradise had a long impacting influence on other car racing games and stuff from EA, right? There's just one car left I gotta take out, but I'm not gonna catch up fast enough to kill this thing. Well, I guess we're supposed to be racing, not necessarily killing our other drivers, but when you got the need for speed, you know, this is how she goes sometimes. And the trees and stuff look beautiful too. It was a really good looking game of its time. I said that a few times, but seriously, I just really impressed by the visuals. I can't believe I actually... Oh, no, it's not done yet. Okay, don't mess up. I thought that was the end of the race. My bad. We're coming up here. We got this. I did it. I got the achievements. So this is like most wanted. 2005. So this is like a second most one? Oh, this is a reboot of the original one. Okay. Most wanted. Alright, so there was Need for Speed Most Wanted 05? And then there was... Ooh, and then it was continued with Carbon. Wait, did they reboot something within the same gen? One second. I gotta look at this. So there was 2005. This was on the 360, and then this was the reboot of it in 2012. They rebooted the same game in the same generation. That's crazy. Is this the next event? Cold Burn, okay. Yeah, that is such a UI menu of its time. Oh. What an odd choice to do that within the same gen. Now I kinda wanna check out those games if I get my hands on them. That's the problem, is like usually I'm not necessarily on the hunt for Need for Speed games, if that makes sense, but I've got a couple that I've tried out over the years and stuff. So it's neat that this one is like, why would you reboot something within the same gen? That's so odd. You think you would wait longer or something. I guess the other question is, why wasn't this like a cross-gen title or ported over to the current gen compared to the other Need for Speed stuff? It's so weird. Ooh. Also, the problem with Need for Speed games is, you know, long-term licensing and availability, right? The music, the cars, everything like that. It's hard to keep these games going forever. Well, they don't even technically last very long, usually. And then they kind of vanish. I guess they're more like the fun racing game of their time, if that makes sense. You kind of enjoy them while they're out, and then you move on to the next one to some degree. Although I know the Underground series, people always want to see more Underground. Was I supposed to? I was supposed to take that. Okay. We could get it on the next part of the overpass. That's a really weird billboard, I gotta say. I like the kind of feel like of this. It's like it's kind of got the downtown stuff. There's a little industrial area, but there's like a certain feel to the grime and the. Okay, we keep missing these off ramps. Okay, so it wants me to take a turn here. Okay. This is driving. Is this driving the wrong way? This is driving the wrong way. Yeah, very heavy processing effects over this one too. Kind of just litters the screen. I think they do that with all the Need for Speed stuff though. It just gives them like a really overly hyper stylized vibe and stuff. Okay. It is interesting though that you know, it still has all the leaderboard things. You think they would have shuttered that at some point? Yeah, it stops the download for every single time. So it must be like anytime like a multiplayer like capturing thing is triggered. Hmm. I bet this game would look really clean with a up-res to it. That's the other problem when these things aren't like backwards compatible, is they just, you know, they don't get any quality of life improvements and they just kind of get forgotten, which is sad. I didn't mean to go over the overpass. Can I still compete in this race? I missed that again. Okay. I think I should just gonna retry. Yeah. Just gonna retry that. Let's just you know, let's just pretend that that didn't happen. You know, it's actually pretty quick for a game that like, you know, has the multiplayer loading that's open world. A little bit of a slow startup, but then once you're in the world, it just kind of like, you know, easily flows from event to event, which is kind of nice. You gotta give it to them, EA, with their Need for Speed games. They've always, you know, well, in recent years, they nailed the open world, and the smoothness from like one race thing to the next is always pretty impressive. Ugh. It's a tougher neighborhood. I think we can catch up. It's also really weird to be checking out these games so many like years on, if that makes sense. Like, it's almost like retrospective at this point. But it still, to some degree, feels relatively modern to me because of how time is skewed these days. It feels like, because this is actually like technically pretty ancient, but I remember, you know, growing up in gaming around this era and everything, right? And it's really interesting to look at something that came out around a time I was around and see it being like ancient now, right? It's just fascinating. It's the perception of the mind and, you know, years going by and all that. There we go, that makes sense. Because, yeah, you can probably get away with remastering this if you wanted. Just, like, bump up the frame rate and the resolution. You're pretty good to go. The only problem, again, car licensing and stuff like that. That's another issue as well, is, like, you know, some cars become classics. Lots of other cars get kind of forgotten about. And, you know, people want to play older games with older cars. And, you know, all these questions, right? This all feels really, really good. The destruction, the movement through the environment, the way they carve out the areas for races. Kind of fits the Need for Speed vibe very well. I did so bad, I think, compared to others. I mean, third place. I'm not going to complain, right? Could be worse. I love how your car, like, changes paint and stuff like that every time you... something happen. Sprint eastward. No, maybe it doesn't have to do with races. It just randomly keeps turning that on and off. It must have something to do with multiplayer integrations on this game, though. Because usually you're able to play other single-player games, and there's no, like, stops and starts and stuff like that. Ugh. Yeah, I kind of wish this was backwards compatible. Come on, EA. Give us the old Need for Speeds. Alright, well that was awkward. Let's just not talk about this accident. My insurance will probably not get back to you, but don't worry about it. Can you imagine how bad your insurance would be if you, like, smash cars up like you do in this game? You'd have to just pay for everything and not report it. Oh, then again, you have to report damages over whatever amount, and blah blah. And it changes depending on where you live and all that. Anyways. Yeah, it's just crazy, though. Oh, I should have done the ramp to hit the EA sign.